Welcome back, folks. I hope that you can hear me all right. I am once again in the studios of Jason Tracy Photo, trying to take advantage of this nice background as well as some props behind. Got back from the game, did not take notes, obviously, because I was in attendance, but let's talk about what happened at this contest. Chiefs actually came out and did a much better job than I expected them to. As you all saw, my pregame prediction on Locked On Chiefs as well as Chiefs Digest, I thought it was going to be a 34-24 kind of contest. I did not expect the Chiefs defense to buck up as well as they did. I expected them to raise their level of play, but it wasn't the expectation that I had for them. So pleasantly surprised with just how well they came out and showed out, both playing the run, although you did see they ran for 100 yards with their leading rusher and Doug Martin. Okay, that's something to be learned from, understandable. But overall, the Chiefs did not let themselves get in a situation where they put any kind of jeopardy on that number one seed, especially with the ability to play like they did today, playing at home. So we're going to talk about some of that. I'll give you my big highlights. I know people are just getting into the chat. Make sure if you are listening live that you hit the question marks before your question so that I can pick them out of the chat a little bit easier. With so many folks in here, usually it gets a little bit difficult. So please do that. And I'll start with my comments and we'll hit your questions here at the end. We're not going to go too terribly long tonight because I already did a little bit from the stadium and I know it's getting a little bit late. So I want to make sure we take care of that. Overall, what I did not see was a whole lot of lost throws, a whole lot of missed targeted throws from Patrick Mahomes. I thought overall on the day, he looked like he was fairly on target. 24 for 14 overall. When we look at the stats, not the greatest byline, but definitely. Yes, I agree, Kilgore. I'm sorry. It's only 9 o'clock. I am local this time, so I'm a little bit earlier than normally. But I thought he was fairly much on target. Yes, right. And we have, luckily, I got to take my brother and my wife and my sister-in-law to the game. We had a good time. Thanks for everybody who was up there in the 200 level that we ran into, all the fans that we saw in the parking lot. Big Chief Sean, if y'all haven't checked out his channel, we saw him earlier in the day as well. A lot of folks that I appreciate your time and you're saying hello. It was a great time. And I think we all should celebrate this. Robert Cole, I like where you're going in terms of Todd Bowles for the new DC. We will talk about that here in a little bit, whether that actually comes to pass or not. General impressions, I thought Mahomes settled down fairly well. There were a couple of mishaps, a couple of drops. For whatever reason, Travis Kelce missed one in particular, but on 9 targets, he caught 5 passes. A little bit less than I would have expected, but I was still generally impressed with how they moved the ball. I thought Tyreek Hill played well. Looks like his foot is back to normal. Maybe just a touch on the top end speed, but I felt like he was moving very well, especially laterally. When they did some of those looping motions in particular, it looked like he was able to turn that corner very well. A lot of things looked like the defense was aware of what was going on. They're on top of what was going on, particularly with Jared Cook. Like I told you before in the pregame, Jared Cook was really the guy they needed to watch out the most. 28 yards on the day for Jared Cook, their top receiver, and that's a very, very good sign. Cool, Mars, thank you for your donation. I appreciate that. After all the money I spent on beer at the stadium today, I very much appreciate that. Had some good beer, though. I will give him credit. That Kingdom Ale is a decent one. I will come back to that, and make sure, please, hold your questions for just a couple minutes. Let me get through my thoughts, and then I'll hit all of your questions.
I like
beer. Very much in favor of beer here in the JLT photo studio here. And we're going to continue that as we go along. So, like that, we got so many carries for Darryl Williams. Situationally, it wasn't the best for him. Don't be too alarmed by the 2.8 yards per carry on Darryl. I thought generally he played very, very well. I was very happy with what he did. Especially in the short yardage kind of situations. I think he is, again, showing himself to be able to carry the ball when you need him to. He's going to be somebody they can look at later on, especially as a relief for Damien Williams, who I think, again, justified his contract, got into the end zone when they needed him to. I thought he ran well, especially in short yardage, where you wouldn't say it was his forte, to tell you the truth. But very well inside. I thought the guards played generally better. I will have to take a look at the All-22 more so than most weeks because I didn't get to see it in any kind of replays or anything because I was there live. Robert Webb, thank you for your donation. Very much appreciate And that's what happens in live video, folks. So, excuse me. Yeah, very much so. Very appreciative of all of the folks that recognize that when Anthony Sherman got that semi-wheel route in the first quarter on the first possession, he really paid off. And I know he had a drop a couple of weeks ago when the one time that the Chiefs went to him, but like to see Sherman in there digging out some receptions, doing whatever he has to do to help this roster. Thank you, Mark Archuleta. I appreciate that. And Robert Webb, like I was saying, thank you very much for your donation. I appreciate the time and the effort. I think LDT will be back. It looks like he practiced last week, and it looks like he will be in a position. What you saw was when Jeff Allen got hurt tonight, I think he got rolled up from what I saw live, and it looks like he did come back in later in the game. Looked like it was all right. Looked like he moved fairly well. I think Cam Irving is playable if he had to play, kind of an emergency role, but I think he will be back. Probably come the first playoff matchup. Cam Irving is your starter at left guard. I think he should be. He allows them to do some things, especially in the pass sets that Jeff Allen really is not as capable of doing in terms of setting that, the athleticism. Jeff's great in the run game. I think he's just a little bit heavy for where he used to play, and you'll see him change that, I think, in the offseason, especially if the Chiefs continue to keep him in mind for this roster. And there's a lot of changes that could come to this roster, especially along the offensive line. A couple of guys that are certainly guaranteed and locked down for the foreseeable future, but a couple of guys that are also in flux. So, again, keep your question for just a second. I will get to them very, very shortly. Want to give a couple of shout-outs, both to Big Sean, because we did an interview there, as well as Sully from KSNT in Topeka. We'll be on the nightly news there tonight. Nice guy. Had a good talk with him in the parking lot. Thanks to my brother chasing him down. It was a good time. On the offensive side, a little disappointing. Chris Conley had 3 targets, didn't come up with a catch. I didn't expect that. Again, despite what Demarcus Robinson was able to do, there was a couple of things that I thought he just wasn't very, very crisp and clean on. He needs to work on some of those things. So would like to see more reps for Garrett Dieter on the offensive side. I think that's something going down the end stretch that's going to come in handy, as well as what you saw from Kelvin Benjamin. Had one target. It looked like it was a play Mahomes was looking for him the whole time, but he and Kelsey were both converging there in the middle of the field. And I think there was a little bit of confusion as to which route was supposed to take precedence. But again, they're still trying to work him in. They're still trying to get him involved and get him to recognize what those reads are pre-snap so that he can run the right route. So look for him to continue. Now that the Chiefs have secured this number 1 seed and they're going to have a bye week, there's a lot to get done, but a lot that can reinsure what they're trying to do going forward. Once we know that matchup, and I haven't gotten to the point where I know the matchups yet, folks. They've probably been released, but I haven't caught up yet. I just got home and got to the studio, so I'm trying to give you this as close to live as I can. So let's see. Vox Romantic, thank you for your donation. I appreciate that very much. Folks, we're up over 250 folks in the chat, so make sure you're hitting those question marks before you ask your question. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Thanks, Shaft. This is a professional photo studio. That's why it looks so good. My stuff at home is trying to give you a little bit more of a dramatic background, but we'll see what we can come up with as we go along. Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins was shut down for the season. What you're going to see is in the next 2 weeks. Looks like he's out of the boot. He's able to move around, and he should be practicing, say, another 3 or 4 days. Don't look for him early in this next week, but given that extra week off, they're going to work him in slowly. Try not to over-rep him, but get him back in the groove so that he's available come their first playoff game. Same thing with LDT. Out of the walking boot. Wiley's played surprisingly well for what he was coming into this season. So I don't want to diminish what he's done in any way, but clearly LDT, if healthy and if full strength, he would be an upgrade. But there's a lot of rust there. He's been out quite a long time. So don't be in too much of a rush to get him back. It may take a game or two. And at this point, just getting active may not be quite ready to go for the first playoff game. But should they get to that divisional round, I think definitely that's going to be an option. A lot of questions here. Couldn't watch the game in Colorado Springs. Sorry, Colorado Springs. I feel you sometimes. Best play of the day. There was a couple, quite honestly. You have to give credit to Justin Houston. Old man Houston, as they like to call him, showed up both D Ford and Chris Jones, the young bucks that are in there fighting for contracts and fighting for sacks. and hits and everything else. Matt Mitchell, how are you? Thanks for saying hello. It's not necessarily that the ILB crew woke up. What I noticed with Bob Sutton is he rotated very, very well. You saw Reggie Ragland in on first down, and immediately Darryl Williams came in on second down. Passing downs is what Darryl Williams is here for, specifically for the running backs, but also on the tight end coverage. So that's something that Reggie is challenged by, and he's very much a first down linebacker, and I think that was good. Recognizing what your guys can do is very key for this defensive coordinator if he's going to retain his job, if he's not going to retire. If he does, we can talk about options here later, not necessarily tonight, but we will get to it. Does Damien Williams start over Ware even if he comes back? Yes, he does. They made the investment. He certainly is providing a spark. Damien Williams is the guy that has the elusiveness, the acceleration to make a game change. Nothing against Spencer Ware. Love how he grinds out yards. And honestly, when they get in the playoffs and they get in those short yardage situations, I expect Spencer Ware to be the guy who gets the ball. That's going to be very important for him. But generally, your starter, I think they're going to go with a hot end, stick with Damien Williams, especially after they just gave him that contract extension this week. Do you think we need to bring back next Barry? There's no bringing back. Barry's under contract. I don't think there's any parting with him, to tell you the truth. I think this was a precautionary sit out for him. Clearly what you saw from the Raiders that they were not able to keep up. So Eric Berry was not a pivotal factor in this game. They are preparing for this time off so that he can be ready in a couple of weeks. And he is critical against these teams that know how to exploit the secondaries more so than other teams. So don't underestimate what Eric Berry can do for you. Yes, Matt Mitchell, DOD made some very, very good plays. Ragland had a great pick, yes, but he was also very aggressive in filling those holes, especially in the A-gaps. He got a little bit of pressure from what I saw as well. And I'll have more for you once I look at the All-22 film and see the end zone views. Who else? Yes, I know. For all of you that are big Dan Sorensen fans, I'm glad you got your play. Dan came up with a good play, and I'll give him credit. Still not very excited about what he is as a free safety, but that particular play, it was a great jump, especially the position that he was playing in that particular play. That was a little bit out of character for him, so good for him for recognizing. I think the route was cut off a little bit short on that particular play, but he made the most of it and made them pay for it. And this is an opportunity for the defense to make a statement and say, we are not just this lackadaisical team that is 17th in the run, or 17th in the pass, and 30th against the run, 28th overall, I think it was, almost 30th, depending on what the stats are from this current week. And there is something to be said for making big plays. If you're going to allow yardage over and over and over, but yet you're going to make plays, you're going to make up some of that. And the impact that this defense made in a play-by-play basis tonight actually got them ahead in the game, allowed them to play from the front, and I think that changed the tone of the game completely. So give them an attaboy for this point. It was a weak opponent, but they took advantage and they closed out as they should. So that's a positive. Is Eric Berry back for the playoffs? I believe he is. I think this is precautionary. I think you can expect to see him when they play again. More questions. You guys are hitting it great, and I'm trying to say Matt Blue, who said Reggie was slow? I said Reggie was slow. For Reggie, I thought he took that back rather well, but he was not going to run an entire offensive team. Let's see who made that tackle, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So, but good for him, in the right place at the right time, making plays when they needed it. This is something that's going to have to continue, and if this defense can make sure to capitalize on some of those plays, they're going to be in a good position to play well enough to support the offense going forward to get them to that Super Bowl. And at this point, with a first-round bye, they're only a couple of games from that Super Bowl. So they have to put a couple of good game plans together, get a couple of good experiences from all of their guys, young and old alike. I will say that I thought Ward played better than he did last week, incremental step ahead, and that was significant. Matt Blue, thank you for your donation. I appreciate that. While this background and this studio setup is not necessarily mine full time, it is something that I will emulate, and I'll try to give you guys a little bit more of it as we go forward. And I will try to get all of your questions answered here. I see a couple here that I'm slowly getting to. Is Travarius Ward a starter now? It appears so. I don't know that you go back to Skandrick and take any kind of chance with his play, especially If the referees are going to call anything kind of tight, you're going to have a lot more calls on Orlando Skandrick than you are on Ward, just from their athleticism standpoint. So I would expect to see Ward from this point going forward. Am I going to the playoffs? No, I do not have playoff tickets. I will not be on hand. I will be watching from afar. And that is the way I do the playoffs. I also have a brewing contest I'll be participating in the second week, so I will be watching from very far at that point. Other questions. Make sure you hit those double question marks at the beginning if you want, folks, and I'll make sure to pull those out. Williams brothers running backs, a good duel. I think that they are. I know Darryl's been a little bit slower to catch on than Damien has. I think clearly with the contract extension that tells you that the team believes in Damien as a legitimate starter. And I think Darryl gives you that change of pace, that little bit of power, that little bit of change of pace, a little more direct kind of attack. And I really like what Darryl has. I remain a big Darryl Williams fan. I like what he did in college. I think he can bring a very interesting slash power counter game. Clearly he's good with catching balls out of the backfield. Definitely a guy to have in the stable. I thought Hitchens ran to the ball well. This is Salty Dog 23. Thank you for your question. I thought Hitchens ran to the ball very well tonight. He made several plays on the sideline. Looked less hesitant to me. Didn't quite fill the A gaps and the B gaps as much as I would like during the run fits, but better than he had been. So I think it feels like to me in general that Bob Sutton has kind of let the dogs loose a little bit and fulfilled that part of letting them run to the ball, letting them do what instinctually linebackers are trained to do. And that helps pay off for this entire team. Do I expect Watkins back for the playoffs? Yes, I do. That's the whole goal. They've been trying to get him ready. He is out of the boot, but they're taking it very cautiously with him because you want to let him progress slowly as it goes along so that he's ready come playoff time. That is the entire goal. I expect to see him out that first game. Whether he makes it through that first game and survives multiple drives, we're going to have to see. But that is the goal. Next question. I don't have a cheat code. No, Mahomes is all natural as far as I understand. Still need to fire Sutton. Yes, I agree with you. They still need a defensive coordinator. You expect, what is it? It is now 11 p.m. Eastern. I don't think Todd Bowles is going to be employed very much longer, so you're going to see him as an option. Not sure about both Wilkes and Ron Rivera. There are other options out there for DC that may come available. We're going to have to play that by ear. How do you think Ward did today? I covered that. If you missed that, go back and check it out once it posts here in a little bit when I'm done. Should Benjamin take over Conley's spot? I see nothing from Benjamin that tells me he's better. I wanted Chris to take that step forward, and he hasn't quite done it here, especially the last few weeks. I still feel like he can, but I just don't know. I think you're going to see them try to get to a hot hand and see who can do what. I would have liked them to go to Benjamin a little bit more in the red zone, but they didn't. And, that's just a feel for the game flow. I think you will see that eventually. It just depends on the matchups and the timing. Are they going to trade Tano Passanio in the offseason? Tano Passanio has zero trade value, so don't expect a trade at all. I think they'll allow him to try to fight for a roster spot. Whether he makes it or not, I don't know. They clearly don't have faith in his ability right now, with Braylon Speaks taking predominant snaps over Tano Passanio, especially when you only have, Justin Houston has been hurt the last several years, as well as D. Ford, who has had multiple injuries, and you're still not playing Tano Passanio. There's just not a lot of faith there from the coaching staff. What do you think of the overall offensive play calling? I still feel like there's missed opportunities in the run game, but I'm always going to feel that until they run the ball 40 to 45%. That's just the way it is. I would also like to see them exploit matchups a little bit better. I thought what you saw in the deep ball from Tyreek Hill tonight was very important because it, again, loosened the defense. It put the NFL on notice, whoever's going to go up against this team, that they have to contend with that deep ball again. And that's very, very important. Those intermediate crossers, I think, are what's going to come into play, and that's going to come out of the slot. That's going to be Conley. That's going to be Benjamin some. Obviously, Kelsey. Those are going to be very key routes going forward into the postseason. Eric Berry for D coordinator. Eric Berry wants to play. He's a player. He doesn't want to coach. We're not there yet, folks. Let's see here. Who else has questions? As far as the Chiefs go in the playoffs, I feel like the Chiefs have the ability to get the AFC Championship game, and then it's going to come down to matchups. If it happens to be the Patriots, I feel like they're in a good position that they can beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship and get to the Super Bowl. Beyond that, we'll just see who else makes it. More questions. Bowles already fired. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Evidently, Todd Bowles is a free agent. I don't think that he can serve much of a consultant type role for Bob Sutton. I don't think Bob will take that kind of input. But look for Todd Bowles to be on the list of people that should talk to the Chiefs come the postseason, whenever that happens for the Chiefs. Right now, it's going to be kind of slow going because of their ability to sit out the next 2 weeks. The fourth-time attempt in the red zone, did that hurt us as far as momentum? Yes, you would like to see them power that through and get that done. But again, this is the NFL and defensive play ball too. So I don't think they're going to take it too much to heart. They were deep in enemy territory, so I don't think it had a negative effect on their whole drive thereafter. It was late in the first half, if I remember correctly, and I don't think it had any lasting effects in the second half, certainly. Thank you, Jose. I appreciate you updating me. And Joseph says Ron isn't going to be available. Okay, and that's certainly viable. I don't know what the criteria are, and if you're right, he may just not be there, and that's certainly okay. When he does become, I think it would be an option. Did Chad Henne learn a few things from Pat? He looked okay. Yeah, I mean, Chad Henne's an experienced quarterback. If anything were to happen to Pat Mahomes, he's a guy that's capable of running this offense. Can he throw those sidearm passes or those no-look passes? No way in hell. But he is a guy that can move the offense, follow the game plan, and execute. So I think that's a good plus. Other questions. What do you think of Conley going forward? I think Conley's probably not going to get a whole lot of market offers when he hits free agency. I think it is likely that he comes back on fairly small contract. I know that he likes to be in Kansas City. I know that he feels at home here, and I know that he has interest outside of football as well. So I don't think it's just about the money for him. Other questions. Do you think Hunt will play ball again? I don't. I think somebody might sign him. Possibly, but I just don't think that it's going to happen. Pittsburgh eliminated from post games. Cool, Mars, you might know something I don't. I haven't been paying attention. I literally walked in the door and got online, so you may know more than I do at this point. Yeah, wide receivers are not really holding on to the ball. There were a number of drops. It's been a process, and this is the time of the year when all wide receivers start to have some drops. It becomes more prevalent because of the cold weather. That's certainly a factor. And you look at teams that run the ball in December and January, they generally have success. So that's an important part of the game that has to be taken into account. Okay, King Soul, a little forward. What would you think of a core, wide receiver core, that is, of Hill, Watkins, Robinson, Pringle, and Dieter for next year? I think you're okay. I don't feel like Demarcus Robinson has progressed this season like he should. I definitely feel that Dieter and Pringle deserve a shot at the regular roster. I don't know if they're going to get there. I expect to see some kind of free agent signing or a late round draft pick with some speed that looks to push for a roster spot. We'll see what falls out there. What was the defense? What was the difference for the defense tonight? Benjamin Felty, thank you for the question. The difference was that they were playing a subpar team, and they were keyed in on their reads. They were visually aggressive. I'll have to look at the assignments when I look at the All-22 here in the next few days. But that's what it really said to me, is that they were ready to execute their game plan. They read their keys and they attacked. And that's what's key. I've been talking about that all season. If you can be aggressive on defense, you can win. Kelsey, talked about him. I think Pringle will earn snaps next season. Who do we need the most? Watkins, Barry, LDT. Barry, first and foremost, Watkins secondarily, and anybody else is a bonus, as far as I can tell you. No, I don't think Demarcus Robinson takes Conley's spot. It's all whether Conley resigns or not. Folks, we're almost to 400 people. Thank you all for checking this out. I really appreciate it. It's great. Hit your question marks before your question, and I'll pick those out of the chat real quick. Do they draft an RB next year? I think they do. I think it's going to be on day 3, though, so don't look for that in the early rounds. Don't need an RB, get some. Yeah, that's true. There are plenty that have proven that they can be picked up as free agents and make a difference. So not a high draft priority. Benjamin was a Chief since the beginning. Would he be more of an elite option? That's debatable. He is not the athletic threat that some of these receivers are. If he were more familiar with the offense, I think he would have more opportunities, but I can't say that he would be, really a threat that would draw a lot of attention. But certainly as he goes along, I think he will get better. Defense. How can the defense maintain going forward? Maintain your aggression. Even if you're wrong, be aggressive about it, both at the corner level as well as the inside linebacker level. The D-line, I think, will take care of itself. So you have to manage those two positions. Will Andy Reid cut the mustache? It's not going anywhere. I hate to tell you, folks. Like, to the day he dies, Andy Reid will have a mustache. The defense maintain. Yep. Okay. Jeff Williams, thanks for your donation. I appreciate that. The sausage did have a nice grab. I called it to the poor soul sitting next to me, who unfortunately was like, "Wow, did you call that play?" Well, hey, I told you it was coming. Would you rather play the Ravens or the Chargers? I would take the Chargers again. I think the Chiefs match up better against them. I think they won on a lark this last game, and I think they can beat them in the playoffs. What's the biggest threat this year for the Chiefs? The Chiefs are the biggest threat for the Chiefs. There's no reason the Chiefs can't beat everybody in the AFC playoffs if they play at the top of their game. That's going to be the question. Who do you think will be the first opponent? I'm expecting it to be probably Pittsburgh if they got in. I'm not 100%. I believe New England's going to have the number 2, so I don't expect it to be them. I do not believe Le'Veon Bell is in any future for the Kansas City Chiefs. Carlos, his money, his attitude, I don't think he belongs in this city. I don't think he belongs on this roster. It won't work. Will Dee Ford cost a lot next year? He will, because he will be franchised. And I believe at the outside linebacker level, that's going to be about a $16 million hit, if I remember correctly. We'll get that when the new year comes out and they give us the actual salary cap. We'll know what that is as well. Do you think they used last year's game as motivation for this year's playoffs? They have to find motivation wherever they can. That's going to be key. They have to be up for this game, wherever it comes, whoever it comes. They will watch keenly next weekend and see what happens. Has Williams performed enough to be given a portion of respect, fear that Hunt created? Damien Williams is a different cat. He is not Hunt. Different kind of game, but I think he has earned some respect. I think you see that across the league, and we'll see what happens come this playoff game. That will go a long way to earning him more as well. Glad. Sorry, I didn't get to see everybody at the stadium today. Ran into a few folks, but clearly didn't hit everybody that I was trying to see. We'll be trying to hit more next time I get in time. Earl Thomas to replace Sroenezen as safety. Ethan Hunt, if you choose to accept this mission, Earl Thomas would be a great addition. I expect him to have some attention. I just don't know if he has interest to come to Kansas City as a free agent rather than as a trade destination. So we will see. Pat Denton, thanks for the donation. Appreciate that. Can't wait to see the Colts, Ravens, Texans get owned at Arrowhead. I agree. I think the Ravens are the toughest of those matchups, but I think whoever comes in Arrowhead's in for a tough ride. Do you think Andy will pull out some trick plays? I do. I think some of those, especially those tight tosses that you saw in the first couple of weeks of the season, I think those are waiting to come out come playoff time. So keep an eye on that. Is the 3 spot put up by the Raiders telling you the Chiefs D may tighten up in the playoffs, especially since Barry was out? I think it is a positive sign. Again, this Andy Humberg, thank you for the donation. I'm sorry I missed you today, bud. Folks, Andy Humberg's an old roommate of mine, and I didn't see him at the game as much as I tried. Many beers, my friend, many beers. I don't know that the Raiders are good recognition of what's going to go on going forward. So just keep that grain of salt in there. They were not exactly a top end contest today. The stupid taunting penalties. Demarcus Robinson has not done enough to earn backing into the end zone like that. I think that was ridiculous. I think it was immature and another sign that I don't think he's ready to step into the number 3 role. Thoughts on the interior line, I assume is what you're saying. And that's from Post LC Truck Talks. Yes, I can't even say all that name, but the interior line held up. I thought Cam came close to coming in. I think he's going to be back come the playoff game, and I think that helps them in the pass game. That's going to allow them to do some of the things pass-wise, blocking-wise, quick action-wise that they want to do. I'm starting to get repeat questions, so I'll wrap it up here, folks. We're right at half an hour. So I will say in general that I feel like the defense showed what it can be when it can be aggressive, and that's going to be important. When they're able to be aggressive, they're able to play to the best of their ability, and that's going to give them power going forward. So we will look for them to continue that. It does depend on matchups. That's going to be very important going forward. We'll wait to see who they get at home. And, it's going to be important. How they match up is what's going to tell the tale in terms of how aggressive they're able to be. And quite honestly, how aggressive Bob Sutton is willing to be. So that's going to be a key thing as well. Last donation. Appreciate that, DGTV. We'll read your question. What do you think of Mahomes' deep ball interception right before the half? It looked like he had the deep slant route halfway between the wide open as an option. Didn't quite follow that, but I understand what you're saying. You're under a minute. You're trying to drive the ball. You're taking a few more chances than you likely would because that you are very, very short on time. I didn't like that it happened, but I'm not going to chalk it up to him being frivolous with the ball either. So that was calculated aggression, and I think it didn't hurt them in the end. In this particular game, I thought it was fine. Marcel, I have no idea who it's going to be. I'll have to look at who's going to survive or what I think that matchup is. I'll give you a preview video next week of the other playoff games. Mason, thank you for joining in, and Happy New Year to all of you. I'm going to be a little bit radio silent for the next couple of days because of traveling back to Colorado and everything, but thank you all for your time and everyone that I saw at the stadium today. There was too many of you to name, but I appreciate it. Make sure you check out the Locked On Chiefs. We're going to have a podcast for you as well. We are closing in on 1 million listens this year on the Locked On Chiefs podcast, and it's all thanks to you. All of you podcast listeners, thank you very much for that time. It's a big milestone, a goal that I've had for quite a long time, and it's really helped us get there. So at this point, I will say thank you for everything, for everyone who's there. Andy Humberg, I will catch up with you sometime. And going forward, I will be here for the playoffs, win, lose, or draw for the Chiefs, as well as the rest of the playoffs up to the Super Bowl. And then we will start talking draft. So don't think that there's not going to be any content. I will have you year round. Thank you for all of your time. Thank you to everybody who was out of the game today. Thank you for the 400 viewers tonight. Make sure you check out the podcast and everything that Matt's doing over at Chiefs Digest as well. Great information there. I will talk to you soon. Oh, forgot to tell you, I do have merch up on the site. I'll put it in the show notes, and there's a link on the community tab. So hit that as well if you want any of the merch, cups and whatnot. So thank you again for your time. Happy New Year. Have a safe holiday, and I'll talk to you later.
Showtime.
Right. Showtime.